Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Kern. I'm here with my new friend, Mark. How are you doing tonight, Mark?
Doing good, Matthew. How are you?
Doing good. So this is great for me because last night I was on your podcast. Tonight you're on mine. So we're going to return the favor. Last night I got to talk a lot. Tonight we're going to hear your story and hear about your great nonprofit that you guys have, which is doing just incredible things out there for veterans and first responders. And a lot of people know that it's near and dear to my heart. Where you guys, the space you guys work in. So first, talk about you. Just to introduce yourself, a little bit about yourself and your background and all that, if you don't mind.
Right. No, my name's Marc Cavelli. I served active duty Army military police from 1992 to 2006. And for the last 13 years, since 2007, I am a federal corrections officer.
Okay. And where you live? Where are you at?
In the Northeast.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, that's right. We probably want to tell you, let everybody know where you're at, but in the Northeast, and so that's a good thing. So we got out in 2006. I got out December 31st, 2006 is when I retired as well. So same year. So we made the transition around the same time. So that's good. So tell me, just talk a little bit about your story. I know that you've been through some stuff. What led you to start your nonprofit? What led you to really want to go out and help military men and women and other first responders?
Okay. I can start with how it started, and then the why goes much further back.
Yeah.
So we'll start it 4 years ago, take it back 14 years ago, and then bring it back to.
Yeah, that's good. Let's go through the whole thing.
It's all going to come together eventually.
I like it.
So Joint Task Force 22-0 actually started October 22nd of 2016 at the Scranton Army Reserve Center over in Pennsylvania. And it was initially, that name came from a challenge given to me by our warden at my facility at the time, who's an Air Force veteran. What I do at work, I have a collateral duty, which one of our board members at JTF is involved in, called the Bureau Battle Buddy, the B3 program, for veterans returning back from deployment. And the B3 teams are made up of veterans who have been on deployment and know what it's like to readjust. So I saw what B3 was doing for veterans and family members and wanted to bring that to more people than just, the correctional staff at the federal prison system. So we had a veterans retreat a few days before JTF got put together. Our warden at the time wasn't familiar with the 22 a day.
22 a day.
And he sought me out and asked me, I'm challenging you to take the number 22 and do something positive with that number. So what happened was I came up with the idea for a 22-kilometer ruck march with a 22-pound rucksack, and knew that it would take more than just me or people from the facility to make something like that happen. So we hear it in the military all the time, and a lot of law enforcement use the Joint Task Force, where it's multiple agencies,
bringing people,
and then the 22-0 being the goal.
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be a one-time thing that rainy morning in Scranton. And then some people approached me and said, you should take this and do more with it.
Yeah.
So that's where a name you're going to hear a lot with us is Kevin Bittenbender, who also works for the same agency as me in a different facility. He was the first person I had sought out to take that on, and he's pretty much been with me since the start.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool. So you got it started, and then what did you do right away? Y'all set that up, and you started a 22-mile walk. 22 mile, is that how it all began?
Well, we had to take it to 22 kilometers because a couple people tried. A big group of people guys and girls I don't even know tried the 22 miles, and somebody called and said only 3 people finished. You might want to make this a little bit shorter.
So 22 kilometers, at least it ain't gone down to 22 steps, or, you know, just a short one, pick up pack, walk across the room.
Yeah. But I think our legs, after we came back from that, said we should have just done a 22 push-up challenge and
Yeah.
done what we did.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's just, it's a wonderful idea. It's a wonderful thing to bring people together, you know. Anytime that, you know, the 22 number, if you're a veteran, everybody knows that number. Everybody knows that, you know, the 22 suicides a day, and, you know, trying to take that down to 0. So I commend you guys for jumping on that and really being a part of that, because suicide's a big problem. It's a big problem with veterans. Some horrible stories of some of my peers. I mean, I had one of my peers the day, a couple of days before he was about to retire last year. You know, great career, 32-year career, and unfortunately committed suicide because, you know, it had to do with the transition and getting out. And I think, you know, we talked about that last night, is that, you know, it's so hard when you're part of a unit, you're part, and I don't mean just in the military. It's the same if you're a first responder. It's the same when you're working out in that world. When you're part of that and you have to transition away from that, it is just really hard. And we talked about last night. I don't know. To me, the military does not do a great job of helping us transition when it comes to. They do a great job of helping us write a resume, talking about getting a job, but they don't talk about the real transition in life outside of the military.
100% accurate. I don't know if a veteran would argue that, really.
Yeah. So, all right. So continue on. Let's hear more about it.
Well, you accidentally just gave me the perfect segue, because we haven't talked about it yet. But my struggle was actually that transition after 14 years, spending my adult life from 19 to 34 on active duty. I didn't know how to become a civilian. And part of me, when I die, I'm always going to have that one, I wish I would have. There's always part of me that wished I could have stayed in.
Yeah.
But my options in 2006 were very limited, and I didn't see a positive in any of them. So instead of re-upping for a 4th time, I decided that would be it. I made every mistake a 34-year-old guy could at the time. So what happens, I leave the Army after 14 years. I'm on my 2nd marriage now. Didn't learn the first time.
Yeah.
And went ahead and did that again. And things were going south at a pretty rapid pace. The veteran or the first responder, or even just the human being, is always the last one to realize that they've got a problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't have any vices. I was drinking pretty heavily, but that was it. I was just going through the motions. And I'm in the house one night alone, and I went down to the basement, almost complete darkness, and said, the world don't need somebody like you in it anymore. You're 34 years old. You're in a failing marriage, and neither one of you are doing anything about it. Why don't you just go ahead and blow your brains out? I said, okay, self, that's a great idea. Let's go down the basement. Nobody's home. Let's just do that. So I had taken my 9mm and tried to see what would be most comfortable for me. And I ended up putting it in my mouth. And this is where, if anybody who knows me is going to understand why my sense of humor is so dark. If it wasn't, I would have pulled the trigger. I kept noticing that the barrel was going so far that I actually had my finger on the trigger at my teeth. I went from almost killing myself into a full out roaring laughter, looking up at the ceiling and saying, "You've got to be kidding me." I said, "I'm a straight guy on my second marriage. I have no gag reflex. I couldn't do it." I was laughing so hard you would have thought
Yeah.
I had just heard like the world's greatest stand-up performance for the last hour. And it's just it was just one of those things. It's like, thank God nobody was there, but I almost wish somebody could vouch
Yeah, for your story.
For a story like that, because half the people that hear that, I don't care. I was there, and know that my brain being miswired like that,
Yeah,
is the reason I'm talking to you right now.
yeah.
I just found that epically hilarious that here I am, like, how long is this going to go on? Am I going to die by choking on this thing eventually? And something clicked, and I just found that to be the funniest thing I had ever heard in 34 years.
Yeah. So it stopped it. It stopped that moment. The laughter stopped it. Changed your mind.
Yeah. I had started looking up some people to talk to and realized I don't ever want to do that again. So you flash forward, that's 2006, almost 10 years to now being a CO in the warden's office, going back to that night and really looking forward, digging into myself, see what can I come up with to not only change the warden's stance on this number, but why don't you use what happened to you so that your brothers and sisters, regardless of what uniform they're wearing, can get out of something like that by helping them, pave the way for them by not only telling your story. I've never told that story for me, for my own gratification. I do it when I see somebody struggling, saying, "Hey, I'm not just one of those guys. Oh yeah, sure, I get it." No, I understand that 100%. I was about to do something worse than you're going through. You can get out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. And you know what, you said it right, because we've talked about, you and I've talked about this over the last few days, is that you're not walking alone. You're going through this process, and you're not, you may feel deep down that you're alone and that you're walking this path alone, but there is so many others going down this path.
Yep.
And it's just trying to make people understand that they're not alone. And by you sharing your story and saying to them, "Hey, I was there. I was at the low of low. I had the gun in my mouth, ready to pull the trigger. And thank God that you didn't. But I was there. I was ready. I was prepared, and I didn't. And look at me now. Look where I've come now." And I commend you for that, making that leap to know that you can tell your story and help others, because that's important. That's important that you talk about it, but you're able to connect with others.
Right.
And we talked a lot about peer-to-peer counseling, over the last couple of days. And what your story allows you to do is to be a peer-to-peer counselor, right? Doesn't mean you have to go to school. Doesn't mean you have to have a degree in counseling. Doesn't mean you have to that. It's just that you're somebody who has been there, done that, walked the walk, been in the military, been a first responder, being, doing the job that you do, and you see it, you know it, you can recognize it, you can see it,
right,
which is important. So what did you do, like coming out of that, when you recognize, okay, I'm not doing this, like the transition, what did you do? How did you transition out of that? Because that's key, I think, to where you're at right now, is the transition moving forward to get into where you're
right.
at.
Well, if that's not enough to help guide somebody through what they're going through, I went through 3 counselors. The first person I saw wasn't quite getting it or getting me. The next one, pretty much the same thing. And the third person I talked to finally got it, whether through, maybe something she had gone through previously, or maybe she had heard something similar, different scenario before. But a lot of the things I tell people is not to rely so much on somebody who's been where you've been, because this was a VA counselor, but she had never served in the military.
Yeah.
So me and you being veterans might understand each other on lots of different levels, whether enlisted officer, different branch of service, doesn't matter. She understood and got me out of that a few months later. And once I got past, the fact that, talking to someone of the opposite sex didn't bother me, but I'm like, how is she pretending to understand what I'm going through? She never served in the military. It's not always going to be somebody who's done what you've done who gets it.
Yeah.
It's just the right person.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
well, and that's important too, because, I mean, again, and I believe that there's so many different avenues. I mean, obviously you have the counselors that are trained to be counselors, and then you have, some counselors like me, who has counseling degree, and but I've been there, done that. And then you have the people that are counselors and doctors that, they all are trying to do the best that they can. They're all trying to relate and bring the stories together and trying to help people out. So I commend every single person that's out there doing that. But it's different, finding different ways. It's finding that way to connect with veterans, And I think that's important. That's
yeah, you just have to be willing to do whatever it takes whether for yourself or if you're doing it for somebody else, you should be doing it for you. You've really got to be willing. And I fought, which may or may not be why the first 2 people didn't work out. It's not hard. It's not easy, but when you find whatever your motivation is to find that help, you have to be willing to go through it, not go through the motions, and really do whatever it takes to get you out of that. But it's so gray, and I hate gray, but it really is walking that fine line of, I really don't want to do what I almost did that night again. So I have to go through this. If it takes talking to people, if it takes going somewhere, whatever it takes, the first step you take is the hardest, easiest step.
Yeah.
That you can take, because it really does progressively get easier once you get that ball rolling.
Yeah.
When you want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so somebody in your position right now, I think it's very key to know, with the nonprofit, with JTF, and, learning how to be a good listener and learning how to listen to our peers that are in their struggle. It's often very easy to say, to jump ahead because, well, let me tell you about what I went through. Let me tell you about my situation. But it's having that skill to listen to them and then relate to them,
Yeah.
and that's so important.
Well, 100%. If you can't listen, you can't help.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I recently had a situation with one of my, somebody where I felt like a lot, and this is what I think about, we'll talk a little bit about, some of the stuff we hope to be doing together coming up. But I think that the way we've walked through, we talked about PTSD a lot last night. We talked about just a lot of the situations that we've been through as military men and women and first responders and all that. And I think that story and understanding how to connect with people. I was recently in a situation where, with a friend of mine, I sat down with him, and this person wanted to talk. And it really, the main thing that helped both of us through that situation was what I had been through in the past and my transitions in life and my bad decisions in life and the things I had done good and the things I've done bad. And knowing that no matter how bad it gets, because it is going to get bad for all of us at times, right? No matter how bad it gets, there's always always an
Yeah.
upside, you know? So talk a little bit about that. Talk about your upside. Talk a little bit about, how over, where you're at now, and from that time to where you're at now, and how and where JTF 22.0 and how that has just helped people because it's helping so many people.
Well, obviously can't get into too much. I mean, we don't keep track, and I think that's a good gauge in the nonprofit world. If you're following a group or an organization that's keeping track of how many people they've helped,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. And I can honestly say that from all of us that operate JTF, the numbers don't matter because we live in a world of cliches.
Mm-hmm.
Not only as vets, but people that do what we're doing, and they kill me. I almost hate when I use them, but you almost have to because they became a cliche for a reason. Even if we just got one person a day to call us, text us, private message us, put something out there on the page, one person a day, that's the number that matters. If we got one person who decided to reach out, then we feel like we're still relevant and we're doing our jobs.
Yeah.
So it's so funny saying this out loud because it's been this October will be 4 years. And I know initially when I spoke about JTF, I wanted this to be the shortest run nonprofit organization in history. But saying that, are we in a hurry for our mission to end? Of course we are. But we're going to be here 24/7 whenever we're available for the people that do need us. And
Yep.
It doesn't matter what you do for a job. We're going to listen to everybody. So going into our 4th year, and I don't want to talk about too much about the people who make us up because I want you to talk to them.
Yeah.
And get that stuff out. But like I said, Kevin was there from day one, and our Vice President Elizabeth is another person who's long-term JTF. She came on board a little bit later, but it's the diversity. It's people who have been through similar but not the same thing. We're able to encompass a lot of the areas as vets and first responders that I think is what keeps us still relevant every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah. And so much focus gets put, in the veteran. And I would never, because I am veteran, I've been there and done that. But so much focus gets put in the veteran world, on the veteran world. And we've talked about it before. There should, and I think it's starting to, but there is just as much emphasis that needs to be put on the first responder world. Having been an air medical pilot for 5 years and 8 months and doing all the flights I did and seeing and working with some of the crisis incident stress management stuff and all those different things, they first responders, they see the worst of the worst, and they see the bad stuff. They're the first responders on scene of car crashes where there's a child that is no longer alive. I talk about this when I talk about, I like to use this as an example because it's true. We focus on doing these big debriefs, these big, crisis stress management debriefs for the big scene, the big car accidents, the big, catastrophes. But it's just as important to have somebody there, to have that support for that young lady who's 3 to 6 months pregnant, who's still out there working, who walks into a house in the middle of the night or in the morning and there's a baby who just died of SIDS in a crib. That is horrible. And I've seen it happen, and seen some, the reaction to that. And so to me, those things are just catastrophic. And those things are so important that we have that support network out there for not just the big incidents, but the small incidents. But we got to take away the stigmatism on the first responder side. If you go out and you ask for help or you need support, it shouldn't be held against you. You shouldn't be frowned upon. We've overcome that hurdle because of 9/11 and because of the things that have gone on since 9/11 between Iraq and Afghanistan and those places where it's okay to ask for help in the military. When you've been to battle, you've been to war, and you've seen combat, it's okay to ask for that. We still need to make those strides in the first responder world a little bit more. It's getting better. I will say that. I believe it's getting better, but we can still do better.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Really, I don't even have to elaborate on that. Just that, recently we see it on the news and in the media. Their numbers now in the first responder community are starting to come up. Fortunately, I haven't seen anything in the last few months. It looks like, it's hard to say sometimes, because I try and teach my son, he's 8, that not all heroes wear capes. Another one of those cliches,
Yeah.
Growing up, my heroes were always cops.
Yeah.
So when I saw their numbers start to come up about a year and a half ago, I was like, oh man, they have to know that, I don't care, and this is nothing against anybody's parents or grandparents or older relatives. I don't care how you were raised or how you were trained in the military or your first responder job. I would like to see incorporated in some of that initial training, like you said, with the military. I wish it wasn't so recent. I wish that had started a long time ago.
Yeah.
Part of the initial training for the military and first responders should be, oh, hey, by the way, if you ever are going through something, you're going to see bad shit every day. Don't be afraid to let me know or somebody know, or call Matthew or call Mark, call somebody.
Yeah.
That would be a significant first step if that was in the initial training, but you got to find a way to get that out there maybe.
Yeah. Well, it's important. And again, what you're doing with your nonprofit, what we're doing, and hopefully what we can combine and do something together is we keep getting that message out there, right? We keep making that difference and bringing these things to the forefront. It takes a village. It takes a lot of different people to bring this stuff about, to offer, these, you guys work with other nonprofits and other resources, and we just need to bring these resources together. That's so important, where we're supporting, these men and women out there in uniform, whatever uniform that might be. A lot of these first responders right now, as well as the military, we talked about, my wife's a nurse, she's in the hospital on the front lines right now of COVID-19. To me, it was always me on the front lines. I was the one going to combat, doing all that, but now she's the one out there, and I couldn't be more proud of her. But this is going to be something that these guys, men and women, need their support. It's stressful. It is stressful. And so I think it's something, as they're seeing, one, just the stress of every time you go into a room, if it's a possible room, you're putting on your PPE, basically putting on your mop gear, going in there, and then you're seeing, people not make it. It's just a sad thing. And so I think it's important that not only during this time that they're going to do a great job, but they get the support that they need on the backside for all that stress. And, hopefully those things are being realized. Well, let's talk about some of the stuff that you guys do. So we talked about the walk, or, the 22 mile. What other things does your nonprofit do? What are other great things?
Well, it's a positive now. We're seeing a lot more interaction on our pages. Because like I said, since we started 4 years ago, more than 90% of what we do is what we're doing right now. Everything we do is social media and online. So right now, I'm very happy that that's where we are with this happening, because we're seeing a lot of people not used to living the way they've been living the last couple of weeks. That's going to mess with you a little bit if you're not used to sitting at home and doing this and that. I mean, I think all 50 states have homeschooling going on right now, which, you know, I don't think anybody was ready for, but so that being a positive with us doing so much online, I'm happy that that's what we're doing, because that's what we're doing for sure now. If we had a separate mission, that would be the mission now, with everybody being so isolated.
Absolutely.
So like I said, usually I would love to be talking about stuff we have coming up, but with everything that's going on right now, events nationwide are coming down. So we really don't have anything to look forward to on the event side. But, and I think I can speak for all of us, we're all really happy to be doing what we're doing now, which is talking to anybody who's cooped up now and they're not used to that. It's a way for them to be cooped up, but at least get some of that out.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. So, well, let's talk about some of the stuff that you and I are planning on doing. We'll do that, you know, because hopefully what we're going to do is build into Convene. This has been my passion, one of the things that I've wanted to do for so long. And, you know, how we met is through a gentleman named Josh posted something online. You responded. And I don't know, I just felt like it was really weird. Like I saw it and I saw his post and I was like, I got to respond to this guy, you know, and I responded to you. And then we linked up on over that, you know, post. I asked Josh if he'd introduce me to you through Messenger. And then, you know, lo and behold, a little bit later, we're on the phone together, you know, talking, and did the podcast last night and then this podcast tonight. So I've always had this passion for first responders within Convene. So if you go back to the history of Convene, and many people know the history of Convene and where it came from, the loss of my friend Clark Beatty is where it started. But in my heart, veterans and first responders are two of the key communities within Convene. So one of the things I think is great is you guys you're supporting both roles, right? And so one of the things that I've talked to you and asked you guys if we could come in and partner on building a community based around, you know, your nonprofit and based around the support of first responders and veterans, because there's so much commonality and so much, you know, that we can do. So for everybody out there, we're in the process. We're going to be building a community coming up here, and it's based around helping, you know, first responders and veterans. So I'm excited about that, but I hope it goes even a step further. We are doing a lot of events. So what hopefully we'll be announcing on the horizon here is that we'll be able to partner and work together on an online event where we're bringing different people together, different support groups, different speakers, different all that. And then right here, leading the charge, you know, you and Convene working together. What do you think about that?
It sounds amazing. We got a chance a couple of days ago for you to walk me through the platform and show me how it works, and it is. I think it's going to be, and I don't like doing this, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a vital tool for our missions separately, but our mission together.
Yes.
I can see that platform being a vital tool for people to get together, break down that stigma by talking about it more. And I feel 5 years old again, waiting for it to come down the chimney. It's really that awesome. And I don't get a chance to say that much, but it's just so funny how I guess fate works.
Yes.
And I love it because personally, I was so anti-social media a few years ago, and now I see the good in it. So social media is not only always bad. Social media is wonderful, because I talked to Josh and his wife. I met them online about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's just funny how that works, where two people with an idea but not sure how to put that idea into motion can get together on a Facebook message.
Yeah.
We've talked, I think, 3 or 4 times this week.
Yeah, exactly.
Since we met last week.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll tell you this. So we'll talk about one aspect of the platform. We won't really go too much into it, but let's talk about this one aspect of the platform that is what makes Convene different. And this is why it is a great thing for first responders and veterans. And that is a word: anonymity, right? That's the word. And so when you're talking about, and I'm gonna let you talk about this, I'll just tee you up for it. But when you're talking about veterans, we don't like to share our dirt. First responders the same way. We don't like to share our dirt, but we do like to talk to people. We do need that support. So talk about that from your perspective about why that's so important.
Well, you teed it up a little bit too well. I think there's not much to elaborate on unless you just wanted me to agree with you.
Yeah.
That's 100% true, because like I was saying earlier, how hard that first step is to take, I think that eliminates that for people who want to, but one, aren't sure how to go about it. Now, two, you can, because nobody knows it's you.
Yeah.
So now you're getting the benefit of getting it out there, and it's going to become a lot easier for you if you don't want to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now Jane and John Doe now have that platform to get all of that crap out.
Yeah.
That's probably been building up for a long time.
Yeah. And so and if you go back and you look at your situation and your story, so it's really about sharing our stories, right? You can go back and share your story, and you can ask one simple question, anonymous question, because the people we answer is anonymous question, and have people answer. And the question is simply, have you ever been in this situation? Tell us your story so we can help others. And that's what it is about. It's about helping others. And so when we're in a group session, you can get people to open up. Veterans will open up to veterans. First responders open up to first responders. But sometimes if they're not there and they're not ready to do it, they might be just looking for a way to open up, and they can put their situation out there anonymous and just see that, hey, you're not alone. I was there. I was at the low of low, and here I am. I made it through the other side, and you can too. And that's the key. That is truly the key. And I think we're going to be able to put that together. Pretty special. I'm excited.
So are we, because like I said, that's the one thing that we don't have because of the platform we use. We don't have that anonymity, and we always try to wonder, how can we get that out there? So as big as this is for you, it is for us equally.
Yeah.
Because we have what the others looking for. And like I said, I'm so happy we chose the name we kept for that event for this, because without you, we'd still be wondering for the rest of the time we're operating, how are we going to get this anonymity out here? We would have to have somebody we don't know, pull that out of thin air and say, okay, I found a way for you guys. We don't have that time, unfortunately. So meeting you 4 years in is great.
Yeah, timing's everything. And hopefully what we'll do, if you're listening to this and you're a veteran or a first responder, hopefully what we're going to do is build a community inside of Convene that you all can come into, that we can bring other experts into, and that, we can help each other out and help veterans and first responders out. So it's going to be great. And I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully what we're going to do is put together an event, a live virtual event, because that's all we have right now is live virtual events. We have podcasts, we have live virtual events, and we have social media because we're locked in at home. But I think we can do great things, man. And Mark, I couldn't appreciate you being on here more. And I look forward to a partnership between, what we're doing and what, JTF 22-0 does. It's great. Yeah.
It is, and it's going to be great. You can look at this and not know anything about technology or social media and say, "Wow, what a great collaboration." So, you know, from all of us, thank you. And you're going to be talking to all of us eventually here pretty soon. So
that's right.
It's time to make some positives out of this. Don't call it isolation, call it being safe. We're going to make the best of this and make it even better now, by giving people who are going through that path a new opportunity to get out of it.
Yeah, and hopefully we can keep interviewing not just, you know, the core people here, but other people. And I told the story last night about my friend who went through the Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy with me, and man, he has a great story. I don't want to tell it tonight because I want to hold it because I think I'm going to get him on an interview. But he went from where you were, almost the exact same spot you were, and now he just got done going through pro umpire school, and it's just a great story. And he's one of the guests going to, you know, as we get this up and going and this community going, to have him on because he's a success story, you know, who is at the lowest of low, but now he's at the highest of high, except for no baseball games to umpire right now. It's not fair. So it's all good. I know.
Yes.
And you're a Yankees fan too, so we talked about that last night. So
that could have went, you know, unmentioned, but you know, thanks.
That's all right. I've always liked that. You know, I'm a Derek Jeter fan. I'm an Alex Rodriguez fan. You know, so to me, I'm a baseball. I played college baseball, but if you can't respect and like you're either a hater of the Yankees or you have to like the Yankees and respect the Yankees because they are the Yankees, right? So I've always, you know, liked them. So.
Yeah, I talked about gray before. There's no gray with those Yankees, man. It's love or hate. There's no eh.
Yeah, that's right. You're exactly right. Well, look, I appreciate you being on with me tonight. This is going to be a partnership that's going to grow. It's going to be fun. I'm so glad I met you last week, and we'll just continue to talk about this. So if you have questions, let them know where they can find you guys, the different places, and where they can find you.
Okay. So we actually have 2 pages on Facebook. There's a group page for not only those still serving and veterans and first responders, but if you're a member of a Gold Star family or just a supporter of the men and women in uniform, whether it's first responder or military, we have an actual Facebook page where a lot of the business side is conducted. So if you just search Joint Task Force 22-0 on Facebook, there's two ways to reach us on there. We do have our messenger through Facebook. We're on Instagram and Twitter, and we have a website now, which is www.jtf22.org.
Okay.
So it's JTF, the number 22.org. There's a ton of resources on there. I hate doing this, but I have to. We're a 501c3, so we do have a shop on there for people that support us. And this sounds really partial too, with a lot of great merchandise on there.
Cool.
We've got t-shirts, hoodies, patches, challenge coins, all kinds of stuff. So
I'll go on there and get some. I'm a hoodie guy, so and a t-shirt guy, so that'll be good.
You're our kind of guy then.
That's right. That's right. So I will, I'll get all that stuff from you. I'll have you email it to me. So it'll be in the write-up. It'll be in the podcast write-up for this. And so, and again, more, are just as good. There'll be a community coming here real soon. So we'll be releasing that. So hopefully we'll get that up and running real soon, and we'll attach that to the podcast as well as people watch it. So thanks, Mark. I've enjoyed talking to you. I've enjoyed becoming your friend over the last, week. And hopefully this is a long friendship where we make a lot of great things happen and help a lot of people.
Likewise, brother. It's been good. It's going to get better.
That's right.
For sure.
All right. For sure. Thank you. Thanks for watching, everyone.